So in today's tutorial, I'm doing a kind of half and half leopard prints, just plain colour soap, but it's done on the diagonal. And this first bit is making the leopard print. So you've all seen how soaps are made using lye. So the lye is going in here, and we're just going to bring this to an emulsion, then split it out and colour it. But what's really interesting here is this is a skill that I don't have a great deal of experience in, which is the whole kind of piping patterns through a soap. So I'm trying to do more of them and practice it. So this may not look like a really good leopard print, but this is my kind of second time doing this technique. And there are lots of things that we all have to learn. And you can see that whilst it's still not as good as I would want it to be, you can still have some fun with soaps. You can still do these techniques and you can learn from what you do. By putting this out, hopefully it'll inspire you to know that we don't always get it right first time. And it is okay to fail, because a fail is just a first attempt in learning. Okay, so what I've done here is just getting everything mixed together, and I'm going to just pulse this very gently, and I'm going to bring it to an emulsion. And for those of you that maybe are new to soaping, this would be the one thing I would say you really need to get to grips with, is learning when your soap is at an emulsion. You don't need to bring a soap to trace immediately, and you should know how long your soap is going to set up. And because this was this is a recipe I'm kind of trying out and trying a new recipe, and I've not used it very much before, I just wanted to check and see how long it's going to take. So you can see here I am checking the bell of the stick blender to make sure this is an emulsion. So on the bell, you will actually see the soap start to separate and kind of go like crazy paving. And if that happens on the bell of the blender, you haven't reached an emulsion just yet, and you need to give it a little stick blend. Now I will stick blend this for maybe 2 or 3 seconds, then stir. Stick blend for 2 or 3 seconds, then stir. So you can see here, my finger isn't even on the button. All I'm doing is just stirring this soap with the stick blender to make sure that it is at an emulsion. And if I pull this out now, I'll check it again, and it should be at a really nice emulsion. So I can then split it off, get it coloured, and then I can bring it up to an emulsion, either by up to a trace by stick blending it, or by just allowing it to thicken over time. And I allowed this to thicken over time for the most part, and it took quite a while. So this is quite a nice recipe for doing all sorts of techniques with. So I'm just making sure that that is fully incorporated, and you can see now I'm just checking that stick blender for emulsion. It's staying homogenized. Fabulous. So giving this a nice stir now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour off a portion for the black, which are the black spots through the soap, a portion for the pink, which are going to be the kind of smaller spots within the larger black spots, and I'm going to colour the remaining batter with a blue tealy colour. So what I tend to do when we get to this point is I pour some of the batter into my oil and colour mix that I've made there, and then I'll give that a little bit of a stir with my spatula just to kind of scrape some of the stuff off the bottom and then put it in. What I find with that is, it mixes better because you've kind of done a bit of a sacrificial bit of soap, so it all kind of mixes in a lot quicker. But also I've been mixing I mix my micas with oils. I've been leaving some mica in oil mixed. And when I'm going to wash it, it just becomes a really sticky, and it just kind of sticks to everything, and it coats everything. So this way I can make sure that any colour that's left in my container will be saponified in the container. And then when I come to wash it, it will take away that colour easier, and it won't be quite as sticky as when you've got oil and mica mixed. And it's a whole load of effort that you don't need to really do. So what I'm doing here is I'm just bringing all of these things to trace. Now I've sped this up, but this time was probably about 45 minutes. So I have a lot of time with this particular batter mix that I can wait for it to set up. Now, there's an important point I must make here. The less batter you have in a pot, the slower it is going to set up. So my green was setting up quicker than my black, which was setting up quicker than my pink. So I think if I'm going to do this technique again, I either need to divide things out a little more evenly, or what I need to do is kind of bring the smaller amounts up to a trace quicker, and then have a small amount of the green or the larger amount that I can bring up to trace in individual sections, so that everything kind of comes together properly. So the green was really setting up quite quickly. The pink was still liquid, which is why my leopard print is not quite as good as I would like it. But we live and learn on these things, and I will share the good, the bad, and the ugly soaps that I make, so you can see it's not all perfect. So I brought my mould in here, and I've got everything set into piping bags. I'm just snipping the ends off. So So you can see exactly how thick the green is here compared to the pink in a moment. So this is a really nice piping consistency, and all I'm doing is laying down a little level of soap here, ready to accept the pink. You'll have to excuse the little bit of head, but I'm needing to look down in the mould. So what I'm trying to do here is just get a really nice base laid down. But because this was thickening and getting thicker and thicker, it did leave some air pockets. They can be filled. That's not a problem. So I've got my green in the bottom there. Now I'm going to pipe some thick lines of black. But you'll see the black is slightly less set up than the green. So the one that I need to be thinnest is thickest, and the one that I want to be thicker is thinnest. It sounds kind of contra to it, but it does do that because obviously the less heat you're generating in a batch, the faster or the slower it's going to set up. So you can see here I'm putting a really nice thick layer. Now, my other thing that I learned from this is rather than just laying down a thick line and trying to pipe it like you would a frosting, you do kind of want to move these side to side a little bit, so you're making a little bit more of a wide section. So I've laid those in, and I'm going to put my green colour now in alongside it. And if everything was the same consistency, it would look fantastic. And because I had to bang it down, things shifted. So what you really want to do is get these consistencies all very similar. So when you do bang down and get rid of some of those air bubbles, everything is settling in the same way, whereas thicker batter won't settle quite so well. Thin batter will flatten out very easily, and you end up with these kind of thin lines rather than nice circles of batter. So I've filled in my colour there, and now what I'm going to do is pull in some of the pink colour in a second, and you'll see where I really did kind of make my mistake with this batter. So what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of green across, and this was the technique I should have been using. Now this green is probably part of the problem I made myself. Rather than allowing that pink to sit in a channel in the black, I was putting this green on top to try and give it a little bit of separation. That was a mistake again. So I've learned a lot of things by doing this, and you can see exactly how I'm doing this soap and what I'm doing to make it work. So here I'm trying to make a bit of a channel within that black. And again, that wasn't really working. So let's just go with it. When this pink goes on here, you will see that it is very thin and it starts to spread. So you can see I've dropped it on the table there. None of the others did that. And then as my hand moves away here, you'll just see how that pink is starting to spread out, and it's very thin. It's not holding its shape as well as the others. It's filling gaps. It's not sitting as a nice round bowl, and I should have used more of it. So again, lovely learning curve here. When this green goes over the top, you'll see that it starts to move and separate all of that pink out. And it's just, again, we learn these things. You only learn by doing. This is something I haven't done very much of, and something I really want to do more of. So I'm experimenting, I'm giving these things a go, and I'm doing something different. So what I'll do is I'll just speed the next few bits up so you can see all of these layers built up in double time, and I'll speak to you in a moment. So we're back, and we're going to cut this first lot. So you can see how this soap has kind of not done exactly what I wanted, but it's fine. And what I'm going to do is just take a knife, and I'm going to keep it nice and straight and just cut straight down diagonally through this saponified soap. So this has been saponified for about 48 hours. So I'm just sending that knife neatly down through the soap at a straight angle, and that's just realistically going to give me a really nice cut through. I wouldn't use a wire for this shorter soap. If you're doing something longer than this, you want to look at maybe running it through a log splitter or something along those lines. So what we're going to do now is just look at putting our next layer in. So I've put this back into the mold it came from, and because I cut a sliver off just to see what the pattern was like inside, I'm going to pop that back in just so that everything kind of comes back together and we've got a decent amount of soap in there. I'm going to make up enough soap to go on the top of this one, which is roughly half of what we had before. Now, because this particular loaf has been saponified for 48 hours, okay, I want to spray the surface with a little bit of distilled water. What this is going to do is give you a nice surface to adhere the second soap to. Soap will always stick together with it in the presence of water, which is why it sticks to kind of the sinks and stuff like that. So if you use water as a surface spray like you would use alcohol in a melt and pour, that will adhere the portions together. So all I'm going to do is make a very simple single colour soap in a denim-y colour for the other half of this soap. And this is just really simple. All you're going to do is make up this second half with a single colour, half the amount of your batter made up, and that will just fill the mould up, and then you can saponify it as any normal soap. So we'll just make this soap up here. I'll speed through this next little bit so you can see the full process. By the way, the orange lye water that you'll see in here is actually made using aloe vera juice, which was frozen, but some of the sugars have caramelised, didn't smell bad, and the final soap doesn't smell too bad. So if that does happen with your non-distilled water lye waters, you'll know that actually, as long as you keep it nice and chilled throughout that process, you should be absolutely fine and won't get a smelly soap. And we're back with the cut of this soap, and we're going to get this out of the mould now and cut on our single wire cutter. So pull the mould by the sides and then just give it a little push on the bottom there, and it should pop out really nicely. Because that first layer of, or the first half of the soap was the originally saponified one, this should just slide out really nicely. I always have a problem getting these out of a mould, so this is just me being really cat-handed. But we're going to pop that out in a second, and then we'll get it on and we'll get it sliced up. So there we go, and you can see how that's all kind of come together there really nicely. So we'll bring in our wire cutter here and let's get some cuts of this soap. This is a really nice technique. If you've done like you can do this with any two techniques. So if you've poured one lot of soap and you're not really happy with how the whole bar looks, you can cut it in half and you can pour it like this, or you can cut it horizontally. You can do all sorts of techniques combining two designs and get some really nice soaps out of it that are kind of chic and interesting without being kind of overpowering. So I really like this technique, and I want to do more of these piped techniques so I get a bit more experience in doing it and I can make them look better and better. So let's get a first slice out here and we'll see what we've got. So here is slice number 1. A quick look at this one. And there we go. It's not a bad bar. It's not an unpleasant bar. It's fairly nice. It could be prettier. The leopard print could be nicer. But you know what? These things happen. You have to roll with the punches sometimes when it comes to soaping. And I don't think this is a bad soap. I'd be happy to buy one of these. And it may or may not be your thing. But we soapers, we have to learn. And if I'm going to kind of tell you how things work for me, I'm not perfect. I don't do the best thing every time, but I'm willing to show when I don't do that, so you can see making mistakes, having a fail is not going to impact you overly. You can go back, you can do something else, you can learn from your experience, and you can come back stronger the next time. So hopefully that will help you get some more confidence when it comes to doing soap techniques that you've never done before, giving them a go and learning from what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. It really helps me grow and allows me to make more videos and tutorials for all of you. When you subscribe, don't forget to click the bell icon if you'd like to get notified when a new video is uploaded. And thanks a lot, Soapsters. I'll see you again next time.